Chapter 9. Somehow I fell asleep, but my dreams fill with images of my parents being taken away. I'm dragged out of Gen Tech in front of Kyra and Aaron. Mother and father are questioned and then charged with treason. My fault, just like they said. Aaron screams he knew I was damaged and holds a weapon to my head. When I wake, I'm the one screaming. If I was normal, a good citizen, Aaron would be the perfect pairing direction has deemed him. Sure, it would be a life of duty and unanswered questions, but I'd be safe. Maybe I'd be happy too. I shuffle out of bed to wash my face. The dim auto light flicks on, and I squint and tug at the purple tint under my eyes, reflected back in the mirror. If this keeps up, I'll need to order the anti-stress med tech from my citizen account. Instead, I wander into the living room for some relaxation exercises Father taught me. Keeping calm will be my best defense. The flowing motion and steady breathing of the exercise help. And I'm able to settle again, but not enough to sleep. I sit and watch a rerun of the news story on the 35 years of compatibility pairing and birth reassignment. A young and upcoming level 3 scientist named Colin Manning is working on an exciting project to pinpoint intelligence potential, a female narrator says. The vid flips over to a man in his late 20s in a white smock. Director Manning. Our current endeavor exhibits great possibility for the future of allure of humanity. Young Manning says, his gray eyes shining. I fast forward through the rest of the to a section showing two members of the Direction Council stepping down. Two women stand at a podium. One speaks. This evening, Director Fisher and I will be voluntarily resigning from the council. I tap on her face. Adriana Ruiz, former social rights director, pops up on the screen. I know I speak for the two of us when I say it has been a privilege to serve Allure, but a season of change is necessary. Director Ruiz glances at Manning, he nods, and she returns to her notes. Colin Manning has tirelessly worked on advancing the Direction Initiative in the Science Division of Level 3. Over the last 5 years, he has worked on many different methods for advancing our healthy society, but the one with the most promise is called the Birth and Compatibility Measure. Because of this new course of action, Colin Manning and Louis Patel will replace us as additional science and engineering directors. Maybe I already knew this had happened, but this information is usually glossed over in university. Always forward focused, rarely looking at the past. I can't even remember Fisher and Ruiz being mentioned. And Patel, he works under Manning now. I flip away from the vid and find reports on both the graffiti rebel girl and the drone incident in level 1. Both are words on the building. Both are inconsistent to what I remember, and there's no mention of the words on the building either time. It's like direction is trying to hide that part and only focus on activities that they label as terrorism. Yep, it's called a controlling government. I log off and switch over to the spouse pairing account. One new spouse pairing message added. My stomach lurches when I see it's from Meyer. Thank you for accepting my request. Meet at Direction Cafe D at 9 a.m. 9. He's assuming I'd even check for a message tonight and then be available so quickly. I inhale deeply and keep the response short. Yes, see you then. I wave the screen off and stare at the blank viewer for way too long. Out the window, one of the screens on a nearby building catch my eye. The globe of directions logo spins, and under it displays the words, "Stay focused." If I only knew what exactly to focus on. The Saturday morning news means Brian Marshall is reporting again, detailing recent rebel arrests. The girl from the street who graffitied "Break Free" on the side of the building might be among the detainees shown. These types of people are typically incarcerated at the end of the city and re-educated after they might spend the rest of their lives working in a factory. But Brian announces upcoming changes in the direction policies and to stay tuned for a special report and announcement from Director Manning on Monday evening. When it ends, I try to turn it off, but a Direction Initiative auto broadcast plays, and I can't. I walk into the other room. 32 minutes until the meeting with Meyer. On the way to the cafe, I yank on my black, stretchy top and straighten any potential wrinkles at least 5 times, although the fabric doesn't even crease. The streets are mostly deserted since few citizens work on Sundays. Still, a few pass on the way. Are they loyal or imposters like me? Everyone has secrets. A woman with chestnut hair hanging too far over her eyes glances in my direction. I feign my attention the other way. Yeah. At the same Direction Cafe, I met Aaron. I peek through the window to check if Meyer has arrived. He hasn't, but if I need to make a getaway, it will be easier from out here. I keep my gaze on the ground, no more gawking at people passing by. 8:59 a.m. My breath grows shallow and I grit my teeth. I could go, change my mind. No one would ever have to know I came. Hello, a low voice says behind me. Meyer. I look up at his tall frame, pale skin, but slightly darker than mine. Short, inky brown hair that's slightly wavy. It's the first time I've had more than a few seconds to really get a good look at him. Kian? Yep. I ask. He tips his head and gives me a crooked smile. Yes, Evelyn? He holds out his hand for me to shake. My lips tighten, but I take his hand and grip hard. Continue to stare straight into his slate eyes. The smile widens, giving me the sudden desire to punch him again. This is meant to be serious, not funny. Should we go in? I ask through clenched teeth. His hands slip into his pockets. No, I never confirmed the reservation. What? I could check to make sure no one is watching. You're the one who asked to meet. Yes, he answers in a whisper, but it's not safe. We need to go somewhere else. My feet seem to sprout roots and grow into the sidewalk. I have no idea who I can really trust anymore. I want to be out in the open. Shaking his head, he says, "Oh no, not a problem. I know all the spots." He walks quickly down 4th Avenue and signals me to follow. I reluctantly uproot, calling, "Hey, slow down." He does so I can catch up. "Sorry, I'm just ready to get away from here." He stuffs a hand in his pocket again, but keeps walking. "This way." He nods toward the road leading to the park, a route I genuinely take on runs. Generally take on runs. "The park?" I ask, dubiously. "I presume guardians would keep a close watch in such a place. You'd be surprised at a few of the locations where there lags," he says. Direction believes they're doing what's right for allure and that people will simply fall in line. He turns and grins at me. "It will be fine." What's up, baby? "Lead the way." Oh, sorry. "Fine, right." The thought of following him nearly paralyzes me, but not knowing what he has to say will drive me crazy. It's already hard enough to sleep. Lead the way. Our feet hit the soft grass, and a strange mix of both anticipation and relief rushes through me. This is almost over. He leads me under a tree and slides down against the trunk, lifting up. He pulls a flex from his back pocket and swipes at the screen a few times. There, his eyes meet mine. We're secure. Have a seat a few feet away, just to act like I'm a spouse pairing you barely care about meeting. Which is sort of true, right? The only reason we're meeting is his fake account. He ignores me, but he's right. If we're casual, no one will even care. I settle on a spot with sun coming in from the branches above us. After a few seconds, I turn to the side enough to see him. "Let's start this thing. First, I need you to tell me why you're here," Meyer says. Nauseousness sweeps over me. Why am I here? Is it the experiments direction did on Ben and me, the weird visions, or seeing the changed coverage of the girl rebel? What if I imagined it and she really did reach for another weapon? She could have been trying to kill us all. What if the visions just mean I'm crazy? Instinct urges me to run, but I lock onto his face instead, and a strange calm befalls me. His expression is genuine, like he truly cares about what I have to say. There's no way I can tell him about the visions. Last night, I saw something on the news. It wasn't right. Meyer cocks his head in interest. What was it? I mull over the scene on the viewer and compare it to my memory. On my configuration day, on the way to university, I saw something. A rebel attack. But it wasn't. The girl didn't do anything but graffiti a phrase on a building, but Meyer winces slightly, then nods for me to continue. When I saw her do it, I even thought, she's not going to fight. And she didn't. She gave up easily, but last night, the broadcast showed her pulling out some sort of weapon before the drones took her down. And you are sure that's not true. I pause for a beat and run the two scenes through my head again. I'm sure. Meyer lets out a long sigh. Okay, I sent the messages to your handheld. My assignment is to bring you into a group called Affinity, who wishes to stand up against Manning and his lies. They want me to be a rebel? Why, I ask, what's special about me? I'm only the messenger, but something tipped them off that you'd be a good fit. His dark, probing eyes meet mine, and something about their intensity makes my stomach flip. Were they wrong? Embarrassed, that he might sense my feelings. I break eye contact. No, they weren't wrong, but on some level, I've always wanted more than this existence. Knowing things were not right, even as a child, I knew if Ben had lived, I'd want to be allowed to see him more than once a year. But what? I don't feel as if I have much to offer, and the risk. I can imagine it's a difficult choice when this is all you know. I swing around to face him. Wasn't it for you? I never really had to make it, he replies, shrugging. Why not? He sighs. We're not here to talk about me. I shoot him a sarcastic smile, but quickly hide it. How else am I supposed to trust you? Meyer pinches his lips together, giving me a frustrated look. Fine, I'm not a citizen. In their eyes, I don't exist. I was born in the outbounds. The outer bounds. The outer bounds? My ears perk up. My parents escaped Lore and lived outside the city. They were killed 15 years ago. A man named Jason was heavily involved in affinity as he raised me, so I kind of became a child of affinity. At this point, I feel somewhat guilty. I'd even asked. I'm no stranger to the effects of having someone you love die. I'm sorry, I say. It must have been difficult to grow up without a stable home. Thanks, but don't be. The past made me the person I am, and to be honest, I'm honored to be involved. Sure, I wish I knew them, but I imagine they'd be proud of who I've become. My parents gave their lives for this cause. His last words, smart. Would I die for affinity? People live outside the perimeter? I ask. I thought outside the city boundaries were dangerous. His eyes snapped to mine. Direction is dangerous. Questions reel in my mind. I know direction is lying, but how bad is it? But why did Affinity attack level 1? Affinity wants to free people, not kill them. He snaps up, his stare boring right into mine. The demonstration was only the words on the building. The bomb wasn't us. I frown. Why would Direction injure their own people and damage property? To blame it on Affinity. If everyone hates us, fears us, Manning can ensure the rebellion is crushed. His voice is tight. He can look like the savior. The confirmation stings, but incites me to want more. Last night, I watched a vid showing Director Manning before he became a director. He's done good things. Allure's growing. We are safe. And what else did the vids tell you? Meyer interrupts. I don't know. I just don't understand how they went from helping people to killing them. Avalon, Manning has always been killing undesirable people, he says, looking back at me seriously. It just wasn't out in the open. Shame and fear floods over me. What do you mean? Manning has been quietly purging the so-called undirected for years. Anyone who doesn't fit into the mold might go missing. A knot twists in my stomach. He's right, there was a boy in our group at university that didn't quite fit in, who got in trouble a lot. He used to have a cubicle next to mine, and I don't even remember his name. One day he stopped coming to class. I asked the AI teacher if he was coming back, reassigned. I was told he was reassigned, and without a thought more about him until now, I'd accepted that answer. And don't even get me started on the experimental projects. I spin toward him. What? Sometimes level 1s are recruited with promises of credits and potential level upgrades to take part in experimentation, he explains. They're told it's a good thing, their duty and a privilege to take part. The only reasons they give the rewards are to make sure people keep quiet, and in case direction wants to use them again. My palms dampen, and I rub them over my pants. I hadn't even considered what happened to Ben and I could be more widespread. What if I was wrong about Devin and Bess's part in it? Maybe they had no choice. My head reels. I can't quite process the idea and struggle to change the subject. The leadership used to be structured differently, right? Yeah, he says there used to be 8 on the council. When the initiative shifted, the first to go were Cynthia Fisher and Adrian Ruiz, their directors of social rights. The reports indicated that they stepped down voluntarily. Soon after, the others stepped down as well, leaving Colin Manning as the sole director. A woman passes by, a little too close for comfort. I lean in. It was reported as voluntary. Are you saying it wasn't? Ruiz seemed content enough to step down on the vid I watched. I know it wasn't. A Guardian drone floats overhead, but Meyer ignores it. How? I ask. Adriana Ruiz leads Affinity. A former director leads the rebellion, I whisper. That surprises you? He asks. I nod. And Fisher? Ruiz is confident she received threats. Meyer says Ruiz received them too. It's part of the reason she's our leader. She escaped the city and quietly began a rebellion. It started small, mostly transferring people out of the city who were unable to obey direction laws, but it's grown. Fisher hasn't been heard from, though. There's only rumors that she fled the city. A thought sparks. Did Devin have help out of the city? Meyer continues. People want to marry who they love and keep their children. Basic rights they are not allowed. Not everyone fits into the standard direction mold, and these people will take risk in order to make their own choices. Safety and security is not most important to everyone. People have a need for freedom, happiness. I want freedom too, but I have a good job, a nice apartment, a future. What you're saying changes that. He sighs and glances toward me. So you would rather see people die while you sit on your nice sofa? I pull my knees up, then bury my head between them, confused if the burning in my gut signals me to say yes or no. Meyer lets out a sound of disgust and pushes up from the ground, leaving me to myself as he hustles across the grass. And that's chapter 9. You want me to keep reading?
Sure. When's chapter 10?
Let's
find that out first. No, we can probably get through that one.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 10. I haven't budged. I'm a coward. Everything is moving too fast. Coming out here, having not a clue as to what I was getting myself into. I just wanted answers, not to overthrow the whole government. But I've gone this far, and I know in my heart that I can't give up, especially after the confirmation that Ben and I were not the only ones experimented on. That direction may have used Bess and Devin. I scramble to my feet and sprint after him. When I reach his side, Meyer's shoulders relax. Silently, the two of us work through a maze of somewhat unfamiliar city blocks, since I usually only stick to the areas I need to be in. My stomach churns the whole way while Meyer fiddles on his handheld. Surprisingly, our destination is in a level 3 sector. We must have taken the long way. Meyer did mention that some routes were safer than others. He takes me through the front of a neutral-colored apartment building and motions toward the elevator. I was expecting a darkened alleyway in level 1, not a pristine level 3 building. We enter the elevator and Meyer waves his hand in front of the panel. The cab moves down. I shake my head. I'm on the basement floor, but we're headed into the ground. Down, I ask. Yep, a few buildings funded by supporters of Affinity conceal secrets, he whispers. But we're in level 3. You'd be surprised how many supporters exist in 3. I already am. When the doors pull open, they reveal nothing but a concrete hallway. A low auto light near the floor illuminates our way. This location definitely secluded and is a lot more like the back alley I'd pictured. I follow closely behind Meyer, close enough to duck behind him if I need to. I need a drink because I'm gonna cough and I can feel it. Okay. He leads me through 3 empty hallways, right, left, then right again. I keep track in case I need to escape. It makes me feel better to know how to get out of here. Toward the end of the 3rd corridor, Meyer stops in front of a door. He swipes a few times on his flex, then pushes his hand to a security pad on the wall. He smiles. Here we are. My hands clench into fists at my side, but I creep toward the now cleared door panel. No turning back. Inside the room is dim, empty except for 2 deserted cubicles along the wall. Pretty impressive, right? My cheeks burn. I spin around to meet Meyer's eyes. Is this a joke? Stop worrying. Someone will be here in a minute. Meyer motions to the ceiling. He's upstairs. What is this place anyway? I ask. It's a bunker we don't use much anymore. Affinity tends to move around. My contact, though, thought it would be a good place today. Then the door opens again. A man close to father's age, barely showing gray at the temples, steps through. Standing out is his wide smile, similar to the one Meyer regularly displays. What's wrong with these people? Who has this much to smile about? Meyer, smiling man booms. It's been a few months. Meyer goes toward him, arms out, and pulls the man into an embrace. They exchange a serious look, but pat each other on the back, then turn to me. I stiffen. It's not my turn. I brought a friend, Jason. Meet Avlin. Avlin, it's a pleasure. His serious expression returns to a smile. I've already heard about you. Smiling man, Jason, has heard about me? What has he heard? I shift my eyes between the two. His smile softens. Sorry, I'm being rude. He extends his hand. The name's Jason. I raised Meyer. I'm also here to give you the information needed to join Affinity. He smiles again, this time wider, and drops his unshaken hand. And I won't hug you. But I might consider advising Meyer here too at some point in the future. What? No, warmth flushes over me. Jason, Meyer's deep voice scolds. Avlin is my assignment. Jason's gaze falls on me in a rather fatherly way. He shrugs. Your loss. I can't tell if he's speaking to Meyer or me. His eyes twinkle the fear, and the fear I initially felt toward him melts away. Maybe this is how fathers act in the outer bounds. Meyer stands off to my side, hands stuffed in pockets, giving Jason a slightly perturbed look. Sorry about that, he whispers. Let's get to it, kids. You two can take a chair or stand, Jason says while unfolding his handheld into a tablet. He hands it to me, and already on the screen plays a familiar news broadcast of rebel activity, the kind we've been hearing about for months. As I watch each one, they increasingly get worse. A woman is attacked by a rebel but escapes. The next shows a group of insurgents taking a child. The scenes go on all the way up to the level 1 bombing. Then it pauses. None of that happened the way they're showing it, Jason says. See that flicker? He points to the screen and pauses the vid. That's when they switch the footage. I stare at the screen. How do I know you're not the ones lying? You saw it yourself on the street, Meyer says. I glance up from the pad and lock eyes with Meyer. What else are they lying about? Jason chuckles. Well, that's going to take longer than we have. Here's one, Meyer says. Remember the last viral outbreak that killed a bunch of level 1s? 305B, my heart races. That's the virus that ultimately killed Ben 13 years ago. That's it. The one they use in all the broadcasts to remind citizens how important it is to get your medvac updates. It wasn't an accident. We were always told a virus swept through level 1 because they hadn't gotten their updated vac tech yet. Hundreds of people died in the day it took to get everyone up to date. My brother died because of that. Everything I've found out over the last week suddenly grips me with fear. This can't be real. My breath shortens and suddenly my head starts slowly spinning. Everything goes blurry, then black. It's all right, kid, a distant voice, which must be Jason's, echoes in the back of my mind. The room swirls around me. Their faces blur in and out of focus. Meyer, get her. Blinking a couple of times, I try to sit up. I guess I fell. Meyer's warm hands rest on the back of my neck, my head in his lap. Don't stand. You could pass out again, he says. He helps me sit up. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay, I mumble. This is too much. I feel like I should be crying, but I'm not. The reality is that the anger I feel is so much greater than any sadness. Neither Meyer nor Jason speak, and let me mull over what I've just heard. Why did they do that? I eventually ask. 2 reasons, kid, Jason says. To cull the level 1s and to scare Lore into taking the Vec tech. If viral outbreaks are still a threat, no one questions it, and continues believing inside the perimeter. Thank you.
Welcome.
Is the safest place for them. I'm sorry about your brother, Meyer says as he stands, offering me his hand. His words are genuine, filled with the emotion of someone who has also experienced loss. I hate to end this, Jason interrupts, but it's time to go. Meyer eyes Jason and then me. I understand if you're not ready, but you need to choose soon. Within the next few days. I take his hand and pull myself to my feet. Words catch somewhere between my heart and my throat. The old me wants to tell them to get lost and to never bother me again. It's so risky. Then again, I can't stand by while Manning and Direction kill people to keep us in the dark. Joining is the right thing to do. Feelings I've never experienced before well inside my chest, and I long to shout. When do we start? Instead, I stuff them down and stare at the ground. Subtle pressure squeezes my hand, bringing me back to the present. I never let go of Meyer's hand. How long have we been like this? He releases my hand as he mutters and steps back. The heat from his touch still flickers on my skin. You don't have to go. I clear my throat and turn toward Meyer. Our eyes lock. I've already decided. I tell him. I'll do it. For Ben. Direction causes death, and there's no way I'm standing by and letting them do this to more people. I barely recognize my own voice as I ask, what do I do? A slap hits my back, and I choke. Jason, atta girl, Meyer, and I knew you had it in you. Jason, you have to give Evelyn some time. Meyer steps toward me and holds his hand held in the air toward Jason. I'll bring her up to speed. Sure thing, Jason throws his hands in the air and walks to the other side of the room. Sorry, Meyer mutters. Jason is pretty overwhelming, at least until you know him. Even then. Oh, it's fine, a white lie. He's a nice guy. Now, why don't you tell me the instructions before I change my mind? My bravery might only last so long. Meyer chuckles. To be honest, it's probably not much yet. Affinity keeps its members on a need-to-know basis. He swipes his screen and pokes it a few times. There, I've activated the account, and instructions will be sent to your device. They're secure and can't be monitored. I've also deactivated your device for any possible tracking, setting it to always appear that you're in the proper locations. Panic floods me. My eyes widen. What about the night in level 1? Don't worry, I deactivated the tracker when I saw you on the street. Unless Direction suspects you of something, you're safe, and they don't yet. It's just a precaution. Also, you can debug your apartment as needed from your handheld. This makes the work you do in there and on the network invisible. The instructions are simple. I form my own password, put my thumb on the screen, and download an app. Easy. The app launches and I scroll through the instructions. Mission instructions for Evelyn Lark to be determined. I turn to Meyer. I'll have a mission. Everyone in Affinity trains as a soldier and potential intel. Of course, you'll be tested for your specific skills. They may give you a simple job as soon as tonight. He gives me a tight grin. Make sure to memorize your password. Already did. I close the app. Oh, the one thing I can tell you now, Meyer says, is that you are to have no contact with anyone out of the ordinary. Doing so would only attract Direction's suspicion. I guess that means I can't contact Bess to try and find out about what happened to Ben and me. Meyer waves to Jason. Time to go. We're heading out. Jason stops poking at his flex screen. Good meeting you, Evelyn, he calls. See you soon. I nod and Meyer takes me back up to the ground level. Forgot something downstairs, he says. It's time to split up anyway. You can map the route home. Before I have time to answer, the doors to the elevator shut and he's gone. The closing of the doors has a sort of finality to what just happened to me. Terror builds in my gut, but I push it down. No, this is what I want. If nothing else, I can help make Direction pay for what they did to Ben, to me. I belong here. I've never belonged. A sense of excitement starts to grow, replacing the terror. My handheld vibrates. Instructions for Evelyn Lark complete. My heart leaps and I check the link. Initial test mission instructions. Contact Aaron Barton for a second spouse pairing meeting. Mr. Barton has potential useful to Affinity. You will work to gain his trust and potentially create a contact with him. This message will delete upon closing. What? Potentially create a spouse contract with Aaron? The terror inside me makes a reappearance. Gathering my wits, I activate the desktop system in my bedroom from my handheld, go to the citizen's account, and select the spouse pairing option. Aaron's face stares at me from the account. He's nice to look at, with caramel blonde hair and deep blue eyes. His expression is serious on the profile image, but I zoom in and make out where the dimple on his right cheek sits. If I wouldn't have told him Ben was a level 1, I'd probably still like him. He might have liked me. I suck in a breath. Adrenaline has made me brave today, and I select Aaron's profile to request a second meeting. Even though our first meeting flopped, care to try again. Before I commit, the memory of Meyer's warm hand on mine trails across my skin, making the hairs on my arm stand on end. Pairings are about duty. I throw off a ridiculous disappointment that the message isn't addressed to Meyer. Maybe someday I will enjoy the freedom of choice, but today is not that day. Meyer is not a pairing, Aaron is, and Aaron is also my mission. I send the message and head home. This whole rebellion thing is not nearly as exciting as I hoped. Over the next week, Affinity sends me a barrage of coding tests to take every day after work, basically doubling my workload and making finding time to sleep incredibly difficult. The whirlwind of emotions quickly dissipates. Sadly, I don't even hear from Meyer, and Aaron doesn't respond to my invite. As I wind down for the evening and prepare for Gen Tech tomorrow, my handheld buzzes with a message. Updated instructions for Avalon Lark. I tap the link and hold my breath for the news. Mission instructions, Monday morning, link your Flex as usual at your Gen Tech workstation. When doing so, an invisible program will launch into their net to gain access and gather intel. There is nothing else you will need to do. The program will work on its own. This message will delete upon closing. The download link appears below the message. While exhaling, my mind reels. What? So I'm an information security specialist stealing information from my own company. Pressure wells inside me. You can do this. You can do this. I repeat the words over and over. I sigh, log out, and flick on direction news on the viewer. There's some sort of activity happening in Sector H of Level 3. I lean in to get a closer look, though the smoke and flames drones pulled Level 3 citizens from a building. Terrorism, 10 citizens dead. The words scroll across the screen as the vid pulls back. I squint as if to peer through the smoke on the screen. Brian Marshall's voice reports over the scene of the incident. Again, if you have to just tuned in, a devastating act of terrorism has just happened in Level 3. Breaking news scrolls across the bottom of the screen. Terrorist apprehended. The screen switches to a man's face, his head down and eyebrows furrowed, being escorted away by two blurry human guards and a guardian, Jason. That's chapter 10.